Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to take a deep dive into KNR Constructions Limited.
Ooh, KNR.
You bet.
Nice.
You sent over their unaudited financials for the quarter ending September 30th, 2024.
Okay.
A really slick investor presentation,
All right.
and even the auditor's report.
Wow, that's a lot of material.
Yeah, we're really going to get the full picture of how KNR is performing.
It's fascinating to me to see the combination of materials that you have here.
Yeah,
I mean, the financials provide the raw data,
right.
The presentation offers KNR's own spin on things,
Exactly.
and the auditor's report gives us that independent perspective.
Yeah.
Putting it all together is going to give us a much richer understanding.
Exactly. Now, for anyone who needs a quick refresher,
Sure.
KNR is an Indian company
Okay.
specializing in those big infrastructure projects that keep a country humming.
Right.
Roads, highways, irrigation, you name it.
Uh-huh.
They've been in the business for over 25 years and
Yeah.
have worked on some truly impressive projects all across India.
And they've got a clever two-pronged approach to their work.
Okay.
They take on the traditional engineering, procurement, and construction contracts,
The EPC model.
or the EPC model for those steady, shorter-term projects.
Uh-huh.
But they're also major players in the build-own-transfer and hybrid annuity model space.
The Botham projects.
Yes, the Botham projects,
Yeah.
which have the potential for bigger, long-term returns.
So it's like they're playing both sides of the field, balancing risk and reward.
Exactly.
So today's mission.
Okay.
What are the key takeaways about KNR's performance this quarter that a savvy investor would zero in on?
Remember, we're not just crunching numbers in a vacuum.
Right.
We're going to be weaving in insights from the investor presentation
Mm-hmm.
and the auditor's report to get that full three-dimensional view of their health and potential.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture numbers.
All right.
Revenue, EBITDA, and PAT.
Okay.
How did KNR fare compared to the same quarter last year?
Well, if you're looking at their consolidated results, things are looking very rosy indeed. Revenue is up a massive 87%.
Wow.
EBITDA has soared by 276%.
Oh, okay.
And PAT saw a staggering 306% increase.
Those are some impressive gains.
Those are some serious gains, yeah.
But you specifically mentioned consolidated results.
Yes.
What's the story with their standalone performance?
That's where things get a little bit interesting.
Okay.
While the consolidated numbers are painting a picture of robust growth,
Uh-huh.
the standalone figures tell a bit of a different tale.
All right.
Standalone revenue actually dipped by 6%,
Okay.
and EBITDA remained essentially flat.
Got it.
PAT did see a significant jump of 235%,
Okay.
but that's still a stark contrast to the consolidated figures.
Okay, so there's a bit of a split personality going on here.
Yes.
What's behind these differences between standalone and consolidated performance?
It suggests that KNR's subsidiaries and joint ventures are the real stars in the show this quarter.
Okay.
Remember, consolidated results include the performance of all those entities,
Right.
while standalone figures focus solely on KNR Constructions Limited itself.
Uh-huh.
Those strong consolidated numbers indicate that their strategic investments in subsidiaries and JVs are really paying off.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, as we dig into the nitty-gritty of the financial statements,
Okay.
a couple of things stood out to me.
Right.
First, in the standalone financials, there's a huge chunk of interest income on unsecured loans.
Okay.
Almost ours, $1,420 million.
Wow.
That's a pretty eye-catching number.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is where the different pieces of information you provided start to click into place.
Well,
Remember that note the auditors emphasized?
Right.
The one about a settlement agreement?
yeah.
Well, that's the key to understanding this interest income.
Gotcha.
The investor presentation shed some light on the situation.
All right.
KNR entered into a settlement agreement with the National Highways Authority of India, or NHAI,
Uh-huh.
for the foreclosure of the Muzaffarpur-Baroni Tollway project.
Interesting.
This settlement led to KNR receiving a significant sum, part of which included that interest on unsecured loans they had provided to the project.
So that's the connection.
So that's the connection.
It all ties together.
It seems like this Muzaffarpur-Baroni Tollway project is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We'll definitely need to unpack that later.
For sure.
But first, there's another item from the financials that caught my eye.
Okay.
Both the standalone and consolidated statements show a reversal of provisions for impairment, doubtful advances, and receivables.
What's going on there?
This raises an interesting point about KNR's risk management
Okay.
and the overall health of their projects.
Right.
Reversing these provisions suggests that some debts or projects they previously viewed as risky are now performing better than anticipated.
That's good news.
It's a positive sign, potentially pointing to improved cash flow
Uh-huh.
and lower risk overall.
Okay, so we've got strong consolidated performance,
Yes.
an intriguing settlement agreement,
Uh-huh.
and a reversal of provisions that hints at improved risk management.
So where should we head next in this deep dive?
Well, I think it's time to take a closer look at that Muzaffarpur Baroni Tollway project
Okay.
and understand what transpired there.
Right.
This foreclosure is a significant development,
Yes.
and understanding the specifics will be crucial for evaluating KNR's strategic decisions
Uh-huh.
and the potential long-term impact on the company.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's unpack this Muzaffarpur Barani Tollway project.
Okay.
It's front and center in the auditor's report,
Uh-huh.
and it clearly played a major role in KNR's financials this quarter,
Right.
from what I gathered in the investor presentation.
Yeah.
This project was initially set up as a build-own-transfer, or BOT model.
Yeah.
That means KNR was responsible for both building the tollway and operating it
Uh-huh.
for a set period to recoup their investment and hopefully turn a profit.
Exactly. BOT projects can be lucrative,
Right.
but they also come with a unique set of challenges and risks.
Yeah, for sure.
Things like traffic volume projections,
Okay.
construction costs, and regulatory changes can all significantly impact profitability.
Right.
It sounds like this particular project might have encountered some of those headwinds.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
The investor presentation mentions that KNR entered into a settlement agreement with NHAI
Okay.
for the foreclosure of the project.
All right, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
What does foreclosure actually mean in this context?
In simple terms, it means KNR essentially handed the project back to NHAI.
Okay.
This could have been triggered by various factors,
Wow.
such as lower than anticipated toll revenues,
Okay.
difficulty meeting their debt obligations,
Right.
or maybe even unforeseen operational challenges.
I see.
The settlement agreement would outline the financial terms of this handover,
Yeah.
including any compensation KNR received.
And that compensation is where we see that substantial interest income
Yes.
reflected in the standalone financials, right?
Precisely, the investor presentation specifies that KNR received Rs 3,176.9 million
Wow.
from the project's special purpose vehicle, or SPV, as part of the settlement.
All right.
And a sizable chunk of that, Rs 1,419.4 million,
Uh-huh.
was interest earned on those unsecured loans they'd provided to the project.
So that clears up the mystery of the interest income.
Okay, so that clears up the mystery of the interest income.
Yeah.
But this whole situation raises a bigger question.
Okay.
Does this foreclosure signal strength or weakness for KNR?
That's a good question.
On one hand, they cut their losses,
Uh-huh.
which could be seen as a smart business move.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's essentially a failed project.
That's the crux of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It demonstrates their willingness to make tough decisions,
Uh-huh.
which could be a positive sign for investors.
Yeah.
They're not clinging to underperforming assets,
Right.
but it also raises questions about their initial assessment
Okay.
and management of the project's risks.
Yeah.
A savvy investor would want to dig deeper and understand what exactly led to this foreclosure.
So how would an investor go about doing that? What should they be looking for?
They'd want to closely examine KNR's overall track record with BOT projects.
Okay.
Are there any recurring patterns?
Gotcha.
Do they have a robust risk management process in place?
Uh-huh.
And importantly, how are they planning to mitigate similar risks
Okay.
in their future BOFAM projects?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Now, shifting gears a bit,
sure.
the investor presentation really plays up KNR's vision and ambitions for the future.
Yep.
They're not content with just being a road builder.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be a center of excellence
Right.
in the whole infrastructure landscape.
I see.
They even mention expanding into new areas,
Okay.
like metro, rail, and railway projects.
That's a key takeaway for any potential investor.
Yeah.
KNR isn't just sitting back.
Right.
They're actively looking for ways to grow and diversify their business.
Huh?
It's an ambitious strategy,
Yeah.
but it could pay off handsomely if they can execute it effectively.
And that brings up another point.
Right.
Their track record.
Right.
Do they actually have the chops to pull off these ambitious plans? The investor presentation, of course, boasts an impressive track record
Uh-huh.
of completing projects ahead of schedule,
Okay.
earning bonuses,
Yeah.
and having a wide geographical reach.
Yes. But remember, investor presentations are designed to highlight the positives.
That's true.
A smart investor would want to validate those claims
Okay.
by looking at other sources,
Mm-hmm.
industry reports, news articles,
Yeah.
analyst opinions.
Right.
Do their claims stand up to scrutiny?
So it's about corroborating the information.
Exactly.
Finding those points of convergence that give us a more objective picture.
Precisely. And don't overlook the auditor's report.
Right.
While its primary focus is on the financial statements,
Yeah.
it can offer valuable insights
Yeah.
into the company's operational efficiency
Okay.
and risk management practices.
Right. Their emphasis on that settlement agreement note was definitely a signal for us to pay close attention.
For sure.
Now, we've talked about KNR's financials,
Uh-huh.
their strategic decisions,
All right.
and their vision for the future.
Okay.
Is there anything else we should factor in before we wrap up this part of the deep dive?
Their client base is another crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
The investor presentation showcases an impressive roster of clients,
Right.
from government agencies like NHAI and MORTH
Uh-huh.
to major corporations like NMDC and GMR.
Right.
That diverse and reputable client base speaks volumes
Yes.
about KNR's credibility
Uh-huh.
and their ability to secure and execute significant projects.
It's a testament to their expertise and experience.
For sure.
Plus, having a diversified client base provides a level of stability
Yeah,
and helps mitigate risk.
absolutely.
They're not overly reliant on any single client for their revenue stream.
Precisely, especially in a sector like infrastructure,
Right.
which can be sensitive to economic cycles and government spending fluctuations. Having a broad client base is a definite advantage.
I agree.
It helps them weather those inevitable ups and downs.
So we've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah, we have.
from KNR's financial performance to their strategic moves and their strengths as a business.
Okay.
But before we move on, I want to loop back to the investor presentation for a second.
Right.
They briefly mention one of their subsidiaries,
Okay.
KNR Muzaffarpur Baroni Tollway Private Limited. Apparently, they just signed a share purchase agreement
Okay.
to divest their entire stake in this SPV.
Ah, yes. That's a fascinating development.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
It suggests that KNR is actively reshaping its portfolio, even beyond the foreclosure of the Muzaffarpur Barani Tollway project.
Great.
This divestment could be a strategic move
Okay.
to streamline their operations,
Right.
focus on their core competencies, or potentially free up capital for new investments.
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue to KNR's story.
It does.
They're clearly not afraid to make bold moves to position themselves for future growth.
Exactly.
Now, we've laid out a lot of information, from the financial highlights to those intriguing strategic decisions.
Right.
But this is just part of the picture in the final part of our deep dive. So
Okay.
we'll bring it all together
Yeah.
and consider what this all means for potential investors. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've spent some time really digging into the nitty-gritty of KNR Constructions Limited.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff.
Their recent performance, the financials, that intriguing Muzaffarpur Baroni Tollway project,
Right.
their latest divestment move, it seems clear they're not afraid to make big decisions.
And that's what makes them such an interesting case study for investors. You know,
Yeah.
they're not just passively riding the infrastructure wave. They're actively shaping their future.
So let's bring it all together.
Okay.
If you were advising a friend who's considering investing in KNR. Right.
What would be the key takeaways you'd highlight?
Well, first off, those strong consolidated results this quarter.
Yeah.
They're definitely eye-catching. The growth in revenue, EBITDA, and PAT is hard to ignore.
Right. But as we've discussed, it's crucial to dig deeper
For sure.
and understand the full context.
Exactly. A savvy investor wouldn't just look at those top-line numbers
Right.
and jump in.
Yeah.
They'd want to understand what's driving that growth,
Okay.
what the potential risks are, and how those risks are being mitigated.
So what kind of questions should they be asking themselves?
Well, for starters, is that strong consolidated performance sustainable?
Okay.
How much of it is driven by one-off events like that settlement agreement? And how confident are they in KNR's ability to manage the inherent risks of BOT projects?
Right. Especially given the Muzaffarpur Barani tollway foreclosure.
Exactly. It's all about weighing the potential rewards against the potential downsides.
Precisely. And that's where factors like their vision for the future,
Yeah.
their track record of executing projects, and the strength of their client base become really important.
It all ties together.
They clearly have ambitions to be more than just a road builder.
Right.
And their track record suggests they have the experience and expertise to pull it off.
Absolutely. Finishing projects ahead of schedule,
Yeah.
working with big names like NHAI and Morth,
Uh-huh.
that definitely builds credibility.
But it's important to remember that no investment is completely risk-free.
Very true.
KNR operates in a complex and dynamic industry.
Yeah.
Economic downturns,
Right.
regulatory changes, even political instability. These can all impact their performance.
Absolutely. So with all that in mind,
Yeah.
where do you land?
What do you think?
Is KNR a buy, a sell, or a hold?
Tough question.
There's no easy answer to that.
Right.
It really depends on the individual investor's goals,
Uh-huh.
their risk tolerance,
Okay.
and their own assessment of KNR's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
We've laid out the key information.
And highlighted the important things to consider, but ultimately the decision is theirs.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on.
Yeah. We've covered a lot of ground.
We've explored the financials, dissected that intriguing tollway project,
Right.
and even touched on their recent divestment.
It's been a thorough deep dive.
And as you said, they're not a company that stands still.
No, they're not.
They're constantly adapting and evolving.
Exactly. And that makes following their journey all the more interesting.
It does.
What strategic move will they make next?
Yeah, who knows?
Will they double down on ham projects,
Uh-huh.
aggressively expand into those new sectors they're eyeing,
Right.
or maybe even make a bold acquisition?
Yeah, only time will tell.
That's the exciting part.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up our deep dive into KNR Constructions Limited.
Sounds good.
Hopefully you found this exploration insightful.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's given you a clear picture of this fascinating company.
Agreed.
Remember, investing is all about doing your homework,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the risks and rewards,
Right.
and making informed decisions that align with your own goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, happy investing.